What if I told you that the most powerful response you can give in any argument is no response at all? Not as an act of weakness, but as the ultimate demonstration of strength. How many precious hours, how much of your inner peace have you sacrificed to battles that were never truly yours to fight? Stay with me, and you'll discover a hidden power that can change everything. Everything you've been taught about winning an argument is wrong. We are told to fight back, to prove our point, to never back down. But what if the real victory, the profound secret to an unshakable life, lies not in winning the debate, but in gracefully refusing to play the game in the first place? Today, we unlock the wisdom of not reacting. Imagine your mind is a calm, clear lake. Every insult, every provocation, every negative comment is a stone thrown into it. Most of us spend our lives frantically chasing the ripples, trying to calm the disturbance. But a select few have learned the secret to become so deep, so vast, that any stone simply vanishes without a trace. In this video, you will learn how to become that lake. How much of your vital life energy have you wasted on pointless arguments? How many times have you found yourself entangled in conflicts that only seem to drain your spirit, leaving you utterly exhausted and frustrated? There exists a hidden power, a quiet strength that few people truly master, yet it holds the potential to completely transform your life. It is the power of ignoring. Now, this isn't about cold indifference or cowardly avoidance. No, this is about profound wisdom, because sometimes the greatest act of intelligence isn't proving you are right. It's choosing not to react at all. Today, we delve deep into why this is true, starting with the very first trap we all fall into, the trap of reaction. From our earliest days, we are conditioned by society. We're taught that if someone attacks us, we must defend ourselves. If someone challenges our beliefs, we absolutely need to prove that we are right. But have you ever paused to ask, what if that's exactly what the other person wants? Think about it for a moment. When someone throws a carefully aimed barb, an insult designed to wound you, are they genuinely trying to understand your point of view, or are they simply fishing for a reaction? They want to see that they got under your skin, that their words have power over your emotions, because when you react, you confirm their power, and every single time we fall into that trap, we are willingly handing over our precious energy, our peace of mind, to someone who often doesn't deserve it. It's like you are the captain of a grand ship, sailing toward a beautiful, distant shore, but every time a passing vessel throws a tiny pebble at your hull, you drop anchor, halt your entire journey, just to scoop up that insignificant pebble and hurl it back. In that moment, you might feel a flash of satisfaction, but when you look up, you've drifted miles off course. The sun is setting, and you've wasted precious fuel on a meaningless skirmish. The worst part, this reaction has become automatic for most of us. It's a deeply ingrained reflex. The moment we feel challenged, we lash out without a second thought. Someone says something hurtful, and before we even know it, we're caught in a heated argument. Our voices rising, our hearts pounding, desperately defending our ego. But let's be honest with ourselves. What do we actually gain from this? Can you recall a single argument that ended with both sides shaking hands and saying, "Wow, that was a wonderful conflict. We completely understand each other now"? It never happens, because most conflicts are not about understanding. They are about ego. The ego wants to defend itself. It craves victory. It needs to prove its superiority. But real, authentic strength doesn't come from proving anything. It comes from the quiet confidence of not needing to. There is a timeless Buddhist story that illustrates this perfectly. A master was walking through a village when a man, filled with anger, began to shout insults at him. The master simply listened, smiled gently, and continued on his way. A bystander, astonished by this lack of reaction, ran up to the master and asked, "Why did you not respond? Why did you let him insult you like that?" The master paused and replied with a simple question: "If someone offers you a gift, and you refuse to accept it, to whom does the gift still belong? That so-called gift is other people's poison, their criticism, their attacks, their desperate need to dominate." And without realizing it, most of us accept this poison instantly. Every time we respond to a provocation without thinking, we are allowing someone else's negativity to dictate our own emotional state. But it does not have to be this way. You do not have to react to everything. You do not have to engage in every battle you are invited to. There is something incredibly powerful in learning to ignore, not out of indifference, but out of wisdom, out of the deep, intuitive understanding that not everything and everyone deserves your energy. Sometimes, the smartest, most powerful thing you can do is absolutely nothing. Just observe, watch how someone tries to provoke you, and simply don't give them the emotional fuel they are looking for. Notice how they expect a reaction, an explosion, and instead, you give them a calm silence. In that moment, the entire dynamic of power shifts, because the one who refuses to be pulled into the drama, the one who remains the calm center of the storm, is the one who truly holds control. So why do we argue so much, even when we know it's fruitless? If you throw a stone into a pond, the water ripples for a moment, but it soon returns to stillness. The water doesn't hold on to the disturbance. It doesn't resist. It simply flows. But we humans are different. We don't just react when provoked. We often actively seek out conflict, sometimes without even realizing it. Why? Because we have been conditioned to believe that proving we are right somehow makes us stronger, more valid. But the truth is, most arguments aren't about truth at all. They're about validation. When someone contradicts us, we don't just hear a different opinion. On a deeper level, we feel like our very identity is being questioned. That triggers a primal discomfort, and so we fight back. We argue not to understand, but to defend the story of who we believe we are, as if losing an argument meant losing a piece of ourselves. But if you look closely, you'll notice something fascinating. Most conflicts spring not from logic, but from unresolved emotions. A person who has had a terrible day is far more likely to pick a fight. Someone who feels deeply insecure will often try to bring others down to their level. More often than not, arguments are not about the topic at hand. They are about the emotional baggage people are carrying inside them. And here is where it gets even more crucial. If that person's baggage is filled with anger, frustration, or fear, and you choose to engage in the game, you end up absorbing their toxic energy. What started as a simple disagreement spirals into an emotional battlefield where the only goal is to win. But to win what? Exactly. What is truly gained from winning an argument when the other person was never really listening in the first place? Absolutely nothing. Just more exhaustion, more tension, more distance between people. We get caught in these endless debates with our partners, our friends, even with complete strangers on the internet. And by the end of the day, we are emotionally and mentally drained. And for what? Nothing has changed. Buddhism teaches that much of our suffering comes from attachment. And so often, we are deeply attached to our opinions, to our desperate need to be understood, to the belief that if someone disagrees with us, we must have failed in some way. But what if we could just let go of that attachment? What if we stopped viewing every disagreement as a personal attack on our worth? Because the liberating truth is, you do not need everyone to agree with you. You do not need to convince anyone for your own truth to remain valid. There is an incredible freedom in realizing this, and this is where the power of non-reaction truly blossoms. It's not about silencing yourself or avoiding meaningful conversations. It is about learning to recognize the crucial difference between a discussion that can lead to mutual growth and the pointless battle that will only drain your soul. It's about knowing when to speak and when to wisely walk away, because ignoring something isn't always a sign of indifference. Sometimes it is the highest sign of wisdom. When you learn to ignore what doesn't deserve your attention, you begin to unlock something even more profound, the art of the non-response. There is a power in silence that most people completely misunderstand. In a world where everyone feels the desperate need to react, to defend themselves, to justify their opinions at every turn, choosing not to respond is a supreme act of self-mastery. Ignoring doesn't mean you are surrendering. It means you are refusing to play a game where nobody truly wins. Imagine someone standing in front of you, shouting, their words laced with anger, waiting for you to shout back. But instead of reacting, you remain perfectly still. You don't flinch, your expression doesn't change. You simply become an observer. That person grows frustrated. They raise their voice even more, trying harder to provoke a reaction. But you do not give them one. Eventually, their energy runs out. Their anger, having no target to latch onto, simply dissolves into nothing. That is the art of the non-response. Most of the time, people aren't looking for a real conversation. They're looking for an emotional reaction. They want to see you lose control, raise your voice, scramble for words. It's as if they're casting a fishing line, hoping you'll bite the hook. And the best way to win that game is simply not to play. This isn't about repressing your emotions or pretending not to care. It's about observing them before you act. It's about asking yourself a simple question in that critical pause. Does this truly deserve my energy? Will this discussion lead anywhere positive? Or will it just drag me down into a negative, endless cycle? Because every time you choose to respond, you are investing your attention, and your attention is one of the most valuable currencies you possess. The ego will scream at you. It will tell you that if you don't respond, you're losing, that if someone attacks you and you don't fight back, it means they have won. But the truth is, nothing is more powerful than showing that no one can shake your inner peace. Calmness disarms anyone. There's a beautiful saying in Buddhist philosophy, the wind can stir up dust, but it cannot move a mountain. When you practice the art of the non-response, you become that mountain. It doesn't mean you don't feel emotions or that nothing matters to you. It means you consciously decide which battles are worth fighting, and which ones simply don't deserve a single second of your peace. Sometimes, the most articulate and powerful response is no response at all, not because you have nothing to say, but because your silence speaks louder than any words ever could. When someone tries to provoke you and fails to get the reaction they expect, they are forced to confront their own behavior. They realize they have no control over you, and when people see they cannot manipulate you with their words, they eventually stop trying. But there is something even deeper in this practice. It doesn't just protect you from unnecessary conflict, it strengthens your mind. When you train yourself to observe without reacting, you start to notice that most of your initial emotional impulses, the flash of anger, the surge of frustration, the desperate need to defend yourself, are just passing clouds. If you can just let them pass without acting on them, they disappear on their own. The non-response isn't just a technique for avoiding arguments. It is a direct path to inner freedom. When you stop depending on the validation of others, when you no longer feel the need to prove yourself in every conversation, you begin to experience the level of peace that cannot be bought. And in that state of calm, something powerful emerges, clarity, when you're not constantly caught up in meaningless arguments. You have more mental and emotional space to think, to create, and to focus on what truly matters in your life. Most importantly, you start to understand a principle that will change your life forever. Not everything deserves your attention. Because when you learn to stay silent at the right moments, you also, by contrast, learn when it is truly important to speak, and that is where true wisdom lies. Ignoring for the sake of ignoring is pointless, but knowing when to speak and when to remain silent, that is power. Not everything deserves a response, but that certainly doesn't mean we should remain silent in every situation. There are moments when silence grants us peace, but there are also critical moments when speaking up can change everything. The key to wisdom is knowing the difference, knowing when your voice adds value and when it's best to preserve your energy. The problem is, we often get this balance completely wrong. We speak impulsively when we should be silent, and we stay silent out of fear when we should be saying something important. We let our raw emotions take the wheel, reacting to trivial provocations without a thought. Yet, we hesitate when something truly important needs to be addressed. This imbalance creates a deep inner conflict. Buddhism offers a beautiful filter, a wise gatekeeper for your words. Before speaking, we should ask ourselves 3 questions. Is it true? Is it necessary? Is it kind? If the answer to any of these is no, then perhaps silence is the wiser choice. But when all three answers are a resounding yes, then your words can become a powerful tool for good. If someone attacks you merely to provoke a reaction, you don't need to defend yourself, not because you lack arguments, but because you possess the wisdom to know the discussion will lead nowhere. However, if someone is genuinely trying to understand, if there is a real opportunity for constructive dialogue, then it is absolutely worth speaking, because silence, when used wisely, is not indifference. It's a strategy. Think about it. How many times have you tried to explain something to someone who simply refuses to listen? No matter how eloquently you express your ideas, that person has already decided not to change their mind. So why waste your precious breath and energy? You do not need to correct everyone. You do not need to win every conversation. Some battles, even if you win them, leave you poorer for having fought them. But there are also times when you should speak, when someone crosses a fundamental boundary, when your words can prevent harm or injustice, when speaking up can help someone who is struggling. In those moments, silence is no longer a wise option. It becomes a form of complicity. The difficulty is that we often confuse our ego with truth. We think speaking is necessary because our pride is at stake, but the ego isn't looking for truth. It's looking to dominate. When you realize that, you start to let go of the exhausting need to respond to everything. Not everything deserves your voice, but some things absolutely need it. Knowing the difference is what separates an impulsive reaction from a wise response. And when you master that delicate balance, your life changes. You stop wasting energy on empty conflicts and start investing your words where they truly matter. This is where everything starts to make sense, because once you learn to stay silent when it's not worth speaking, and to speak with intention when it truly matters, you unlock something even more powerful: the ability to deactivate conflict before it even begins. And that is one of the most valuable skills you can ever develop. Many people think that avoiding an argument means giving in, that staying silent or walking away is the sign of defeat. But there's a much smarter way to handle conflict, one that doesn't involve avoidance, but intelligent strategy. The truth is, most arguments don't begin with logic. They begin with emotion. When someone attacks you, they are rarely speaking from a place of pure reason. They might be acting out of frustration, anger, or deep-seated insecurity, and if you respond with that same emotional energy, a clash is inevitable. But what if you could break the cycle before it escalates? The argument would lose all its power. There are several ways to do this. One of the most effective is using phrases that acknowledge without agreeing. Phrases that don't add fuel to the fire. Instead of becoming defensive, you can say things like, "I hear what you're saying," or "That's an interesting perspective. I'll have to think about that." These kinds of responses don't mean you agree, but they validate the other person's right to their feelings, which often diffuses the situation immediately. Another key strategy is to stop taking everything so personally. People often argue about issues that have absolutely nothing to do with you. They are simply looking for an outlet to unload their own frustrations. If you refuse to become their emotional dumping ground, they have no reason to keep fighting with you. A neutral response, or even total silence, can make them realize their attempt to start a conflict isn't working. Humor, when used skillfully, can also be a powerful tool. If someone tries to provoke you, expecting you to snap, but instead you respond with light-hearted humor or remain completely calm, you instantly take away the power, not because you're making light of a serious situation, but because you are refusing to let their negativity control your reaction. The most important thing to remember is that you are never obligated to participate in a conflict someone else tries to start. You don't have to prove anything. You don't have to convince anyone. You can walk away from an argument without saying a single word. And that does not make you weak. On the contrary, it means you've chosen to protect something far more valuable, your peace. When you start applying these strategies, you'll realize that true power isn't found in winning arguments. It's found in not needing them in the first place. And when you reach that level of understanding, you unlock something even greater: the freedom to detach from anything that doesn't add value to your life. That's when everything shifts. That's when you start living with true tranquility. Imagine waking up one day and realizing that nothing external can truly disturb your inner peace. That no matter what people say, no matter what opinions they throw at you, no matter how much someone tries to provoke you, their negativity simply doesn't reach you, not because you are numb or avoiding reality, but because you have developed something far more powerful, a mind that cannot be easily shaken. This is the ultimate freedom that comes when you master the art of not getting hooked. It isn't about ignoring the world or pretending not to care. It's about a deep, cellular understanding that most conflicts, most arguments, and most provocations simply do not deserve your sacred energy. Once you reach that realization, you free yourself from a heavy weight that most people carry their entire lives without even knowing it. The truth is, most people live at the mercy of their surroundings. If someone insults them, their mood plummets instantly. If someone disagrees with them, they feel personally attacked. If someone criticizes them, they feel an overwhelming need to respond and defend themselves. In other words, their inner peace is entirely dependent on the actions and words of others, a fragile state to live in. But when you stop reacting automatically, when you stop letting external circumstances dictate your internal state, something incredible happens. You take back control. Think about it. How many of your worst days were bad not because of what actually happened, but because of how you reacted to it? How much unnecessary stress have you created for yourself simply by engaging in situations that you could have peacefully ignored? How much of your life's precious energy have you wasted fighting battles that were never worth fighting in the first place? When you learn to let go, to detach from meaningless conflicts, you start to see life through a completely different lens. You realize that most of what used to upset you was never really that important. You stop giving power to things that don't deserve it. You stop feeling the need to prove yourself in every conversation. You stop carrying emotional burdens that were never yours to carry. This isn't about becoming emotionless or detached from life. Quite the opposite. It's about becoming incredibly selective with your energy. It's about consciously deciding what truly deserves a piece of your heart and your mind. This is the foundation. choosing where your energy flows. But understanding this intellectually is one thing. Building the unshakable inner strength to practice it, especially when old habits pull you back into the fray, is the next crucial step. So, how do we begin to cultivate this inner mountain? How do we train our minds to stop reacting automatically and start responding with wisdom? In our last conversation, we explored the profound power of non-reaction, the wisdom of choosing our peace over pointless conflict. We learned to recognize the battles not worth fighting. Now, we move from the what to the how. How do we forge this inner fortress? How do we truly cultivate a mind so resilient that it becomes an unshakable mountain in the midst of life's storms? The journey begins by consciously deciding what deserves your response and what doesn't. And you will find, most of the time, the wisest answer is that it simply doesn't. Buddhism teaches us that the root of our suffering comes from attachment. And one of the heaviest, most universal attachments people have is the desperate need to be right. It's the need to be understood, the need to defend our opinions as if they were extensions of our very soul. But when you learn to gently detach from that need, when you truly realize that your inner peace is infinitely more valuable than winning a trivial argument, you gain something far greater than being right. You gain freedom, and this is the moment where everything in your life begins to shift. You are no longer a slave to your own knee-jerk reactions. You don't get dragged into other people's emotional chaos, becoming an unwilling character in their drama. You no longer waste precious hours trying to justify yourself to those who have already decided not to understand you. You stop being wounded by things that, in the grand cosmic scheme of life, don't actually matter. Of course, let's be clear. This is not a call for you to become a doormat. It does not mean you should tolerate disrespect or allow people to walk all over you. Far from it, what it means is that you choose your response with conscious intent. You set your boundaries, not with a fiery, reactive explosion, but by standing firm in your own unshakable peace. A calm, unwavering no is more powerful than 1,000 angry words. Because nothing confuses and ultimately disarms an aggressor more than someone who refuses to engage on their level of chaos. And the most beautiful part, when you master this, the people around you will notice. It's an undeniable shift in energy. Those who used to provoke you for a reaction will slowly stop trying, because the emotional reward they crave is no longer there. Those who love to argue with you will lose interest, because they see you are no longer emotionally invested in the game. Over time, like a tuning fork, your inner peace begins to resonate outwards. You start attracting a different kind of energy into your life, drawing in people who match the inner calm you have so carefully cultivated. This is the kind of peace that cannot be faked. It's the kind of profound tranquility that comes from knowing, deep in your bones, that nothing external can take away what is inside of you. It is a peace that doesn't depend on anyone's approval, anyone's validation, or the hollow victory of having the last word. And once you experience this deep, authentic freedom, you will never want to go back, because the ultimate freedom isn't about doing whatever you want. It's about not needing anything from anyone or any situation to be at peace. It's knowing that no matter what storm rages outside, no matter what anyone says, you remain the calm, unshaken center, so the next time someone tries to drag you into their storm, don't fight it, don't resist, simply smile, stay still, and let them exhaust themselves. Let their noise pass by like the wind rustling through the leaves of a great, ancient tree, because when you stop giving unnecessary things your attention, you start gaining something far more valuable, your own peace. But how do we build this unshakable mind? Ignoring what doesn't deserve your attention is just the first step. The real, lasting transformation happens when you strengthen your mind to the point where you no longer even need to remind yourself to ignore things. You don't just resist reacting. You stop perceiving certain provocations as significant at all. The noise around you doesn't just affect you less. In many cases, it ceases to be noise altogether. But how do you reach that state? Understanding the theory is not enough. You have to train your mind daily, with the same dedication you would train your body if you wanted to become stronger and more resilient. Emotional stability is not a trait some people are simply born with. It is a skill. And like any skill, it requires practice. One of the first and most powerful steps is to observe your mind without judgment. Become your own inner scientist. The next time you feel that familiar urge to argue, to justify yourself, to react, just pause. Don't focus on the person or the situation outside. Turn your attention inward. What emotion is arising within you? Where is this urgent need to respond actually coming from? Is it your ego, feeling threatened? Is it a deep-seated insecurity, afraid of being seen as wrong? Is it a fear of appearing weak? Identifying the root cause of your reaction is far more useful than trying to force yourself to ignore something without understanding why it affects you in the first place. Another powerful practice is detachment. Buddhism constantly reminds us that everything is impermanent. Not criticism, not conflicts, not even our own tightly held identity. Today, something might bother you so deeply it consumes your thoughts. But in a month or a year, will it truly matter? Whenever you feel disturbed, give yourself the gift of perspective. Ask yourself this simple question: will this still be important a year from now? If the honest answer is no, then why give it so much of your precious life force today? Meditation is also a cornerstone practice. You don't have to sit for hours in total silence. Just a few minutes each day, focusing on the gentle rhythm of your breath and bringing your awareness to the present moment, can make a world of difference. Training yourself not to react to every passing thought is the inner work that prepares you not to react to every outer trigger. If you can calm the storm within, no storm outside can ever truly shake you. It is equally important to curate your environment. You may not be able to control everything around you, but you can control what you consume, the books you read, the content you watch, and the people you spend time with. If you are constantly surrounded by arguments, negativity, and unnecessary drama, your mind will absorb that noise. But if you intentionally choose to fill your life with calmness, thoughtful conversations, and moments of quiet reflection, that peace will slowly become your natural state of being. And here's another thing. Learn to look at life with a sense of humor. Not everything has to be taken so seriously. Many things disturb us only because we assign them a level of importance they don't deserve. When you learn to laugh at the absurdity of certain problems, to see them as unnecessary dramas you don't need a role in, life begins to feel much lighter. This doesn't mean avoiding reality. It means refusing to carry burdens that were never yours to begin with. With time and consistent practice, you will notice the profound change. Outside provocations will no longer affect you, not because you are forcing yourself to ignore them, but because they simply don't touch you anymore. There is nothing inside of you that resonates with their frequency, and that is when you know you have found an unshakable mind. Because in the end, this journey is not just about avoiding fights or ignoring criticism. It's about cultivating a peace so deep and so stable that it depends on no one and nothing outside of yourself. It's about waking up each day knowing that nothing has the power to disturb your inner calm unless you allow it. It's about moving through the world without the fear of what others may think or say. When you reach that stage, you see that real freedom isn't about controlling what happens around you. It's about mastering what happens within you, and that is the greatest victory any human being can achieve. Think for a moment how different your life would feel if you no longer felt that compulsive urge to react to every comment, every criticism, every attempt to provoke you. Think of the boundless peace you could live with if nothing outside could shake your inner balance. Not because you are hiding your emotions, not because you don't care, but because you have built something far stronger, mastery over where you place your attention. Most people spend their lives reacting, arguing over things that won't matter tomorrow, and ending their days drained and depleted. But once you free yourself from this cycle, you open the door to a state of calm that very few people ever get to feel. This is your birthright. This is your true nature. So I invite you to bring this practice into your life, starting today. The next time someone tries to pull you into an argument, pause. The next time you feel the urge to react, ask yourself that one simple question: is this worth my peace? And if the answer is no, then choose to step away. Choose your well-being over the short-lived satisfaction of proving a point. Choose calmness over chaos. Since you have journeyed with me to the very end of this message, I would be honored to hear from you. In the comments below, please share one word or a short phrase that will be your anchor in moments of turbulence. It could be something from our time together today, or your own personal realization. What is one simple reminder that will help you stay centered and protect your energy? If this message has touched you, please show your support by liking this video and subscribing to our channel. Each week, we explore timeless wisdom and practical tools to help us build a life of peace, awareness, and true inner strength. And finally, if you know someone who struggles with conflict, who reacts too quickly, or often gets caught up in negativity, consider sharing this with them. Sometimes, a small shift in perspective is all it takes to change everything. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your time, your presence, and your openness to grow. I will see you in the next video. Until then, protect your peace, because it is, and always will be, your most precious treasure.